Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining part 3 of our Sales Surge Boosting Your Bottom Line webinar, hosted by Alterna Savings and presented by David Cohen, President and CEO of Your Big Venture. My name is Susan Henry, Director of Community Impact and Financial Inclusion. And in my role, I lead our community impact priorities, which includes our award-winning community microfinance program that provides access to capital of up to $25,000 for entrepreneurs. Before we get started, I want to take care of some housekeeping items. All participants will be in listen-only mode. Questions can be submitted in the chat at the bottom of the screen. And lastly, this webinar is being recorded and will be posted on our website tomorrow. I now happily turn it over to David.
Thanks so much, Susan. Welcome, everybody. I want to say hello to Becky and Carrie and Dawn and another Carrie Curtis, Lesia, Lois Macaulay, Michelle, Nicole, Susan, Todd, welcome back, man, and Tracy. So let's get started. We have a lot of ground to cover and a short time to do it in. This is our third and final session. It's gone so fast, like the month is just I just turned my video off. The month has just gone by in an instant. So let's dig in and do our third part of the sales boost. So if you missed the other two or you missed one of them, don't worry, you can catch the recordings on Alterna's website. And yeah, let's begin. This is part 3 of our sales boost, and on tap today we're going to just review that 7-step sales process that helps you sell in a consultative way. We're going to look at prospecting, how to do prospecting effectively, how to structure your client session so that you position when you meet your client for the first time that you go in as the expert. You go in wanting to, you do fact finding, find out about the customer, what they want, what their needs, what their budgets are. And then we'll look at presentations, negotiation, how to handle objections, and a little bit more too. So welcome everybody to today. And Susan put in the chat where you can reach us for recordings or any other information about Alterna. So that's in the chat for you to check out. So let's review the 7-step sales process. It's really about positioning yourself as a consultant or a thought leader or a partner with your clients. Isn't that a nice way to approach prospects and clients, that you want to be their partner to help them get what they want and get where they want to go, right? So the 7 steps, first one we talked about already: prepare, get ready, mindset, physically, emotionally get ready, also strategically and tactically in terms of, hey, what am I going to do to reach my ideal client, right? And then prospect, we talked about, research is the second step. And we talked about the importance of research, understanding our market, understanding the trends, understanding our competitors. What are they doing well? What can we maybe even borrow from them? You know, I remember a teacher of mine way back when, he said, you got to get good at R&D. And I thought, research and development? And he said, no, rob and duplicate. So that was a bit of a joke back then, and I still use it, as you could tell today. So there are things that your competitors are doing that you can, perhaps integrate into what you're doing. You always want to put your own personality into it. And then we talked a little bit about prospecting already. We're just going to finish that off today. The goal of prospecting, whether you're networking or you're at an event or you have a table, you want to, ideally, if you can, you want to meet the client and really get to know them. And that, I call that a hi, how are you meeting, where you sit down with the prospect or client and you find out about, more information about them. We'll get into it today. Also, we're going to look at step 5 today, which is present, and you're going to present your solutions, your ideas. You're going to ask for the business here. You're going to overcome objections, and negotiate. And then finally, you're gonna, if you get the deal, you're gonna do the work and check in, make sure everybody's happy. And then relationship, you want to build the relationship. You know, after your client buys, it shouldn't be bye bye, right? Well, that's where good things can happen. If you nurture the relationship, you know, you'll get more sales. Your client already likes you, they trust you, and if you have a good relationship with them, they're going to gladly give you more sales. And not only that, referrals. So did anybody do that homework? We asked you last week to, or 2 weeks ago, to work on your value proposition. Anybody do that? You want to share it in the chat if you want. So just put it in if you want to. If not, I really encourage you to go back and work on your value proposition. We also give you a scripting idea or scripting prompts for what you would say when you make a prospecting call. So that's something to work on post program today. So in terms of prospecting is just not making prospecting calls, but there's many ways, hundreds of ways to approach those you want to work with, right? You've got resume boards, job boards, sites online, phone, trade show, networking, buying an ad on radio, TV, print. That might be a little bit more expensive than our budget allows, but then there's signage, postcards, brochures, coupons, sponsoring an event, hosting an event, maybe sponsoring a hockey team or a baseball team or whatever, or a soccer team. You've got direct marketing, direct mail. I love direct mail. I find direct mail is one of the things you can do to attract attention and get in the client's door. And it's there's not a lot of noise and clutter around it, because what you do is you customize a targeted mail campaign to the exact person you want to reach. Of course, using social media, mass media, flyers, you name it. So it's all here. Not only that, I mean, you can do your live Facebook posts with live video. You can host podcasts. You can have a YouTube channel. You can be you can get media for your company, you know, where you're being interviewed about your business, right? You can use promotional products like fridge magnets, pens, you know, mugs, you name it. There's so many ways to market. And we didn't even mention, did we mention like trade shows and craft fairs that are going to start coming up? Like after Friday or tomorrow, starting Friday, you're going to see it's going to be holiday craft fair season. So, you know, if you want to sell your goods and meet new people, tap into some of the craft fairs that are taking place. So prospecting, you know, as we saw, there's so much choice here, right? So you want to mix it up, right? You don't want to be a one-trick pony. You want to be fresh and creative and mix it up, right? But some of the keys you need to keep in mind is, what's your budget? Is what you're doing reaching your ideal customer? And is your messaging on track? Is it going to engage your ideal customer? So let's watch a quick little video. I have these short videos. This is just 60 seconds. And this guy, believe it or not, in 60 seconds, he shares some pretty cool prospecting tips. So let's watch.
Here are the 7 top tips that I give to help those folks. So the first one is, in your prospecting, you want to start with the problem that you solve, not the product that you have. The second thing is that you want to find consistency. The simple rule that I use is 5 by 5. Every week you find 5 accounts and you find 5 contacts per account to reach out to each week. The third tip is to time block. Always time block. So find 3 days per week to prospect. So the fourth tip is to keep your emails short. The fifth key is diversifying your outreach. The best salespeople I know do all of these things. They do cold calls, emails, LinkedIn, direct mail. You need to diversify. The sixth tip that I have is show me you know me. So you want to show them that you know them in some way about their business, their pain point, you know, what's going on. The last tip is a call to action. So what are we calling these people to do at the end of our email?
Yeah, really good stuff in less than a minute. So remember, when you're prospecting, and whether that's cold calling, emails, LinkedIn messages, whatever it is, the goal isn't to sell. You're not going to make a sale then and there. The goal is to get a meeting, and that's super important. And that's the third step of the sales the sales process. So we've got prospecting, but the goal of prospecting is to get the meeting. So you want to be clear, like, what are your goals for that first meeting? If you have ideas, write them in the chat. What are your goals for that first meeting? What do you want to learn and get out of that meeting? What's your goal? Like, you know, what do you want to get out of that meeting? Because it should serve you too. Why are you there? Are you wasting your time? Are you wasting your customers' time? I'm just going to check the chat out. Get to know the client, Michelle writes. Yeah, totally. And their pain points. For sure. This is the goal of that meeting, is get to know your client, right? And then make sure that you're not wasting your time and spinning wheels with somebody that isn't able to really do work with you or do business with you. You want to be really more on point with booking meetings, because meetings take time, right? The travel time, parking, and then the meeting itself, and then coming back, right? I'm just going to check the chat again, see what else has been said. Oh yeah, check out Alessia says short and long-term goals. Dawn writes, better understand the client's needs and if our program aligns with their needs. Yeah, you want to have alignment. You want to explore possibilities. What's possible for you to work together, you know? And I love the fact that, Dawn, that you used the word align, and yeah, you definitely want to find out the client's short and long-term goals and how badly do they want to make change, right? They could say, yeah, we want to do it, but then they're not really committed. They have to be committed to the change and the transformation that you're offering the client, right? Because we're all offering some sort of gift, some sort of outcomes, some kind of benefit that's going to help the client. And next question is, should you do all the talking? And is this a time to sell in that first meeting? Should you do all the talking? And is it a time to sell? All right, good stuff. Todd writes, if they aren't the right person, ask for what you have to offer and ask for the referral of someone who would be a better fit, for sure. Yeah. And Alessia says, not on the first meeting, never. Don't do all the talking. This is time for you to ask questions and learn about the customer, right? And then when you go back and you make your proposal and your presentation, then that's your time to talk. And by the way, you don't have to talk that much, right? 5-10 minutes for a presentation. Do you have to have all the answers? It's another question. We used to be so in fear that if we didn't have all the answers, the client would hate us. But times change. We need to be knowledgeable. We need to understand what it is we do and what we bring to the table. But we don't have to have all the answers. We can say, you know what? I don't know, and I'm going to find out for you, right? That's just as good. Just know where to find the answers, Leslie said. Yeah, ChatGPT. All right. Not always. There's so many other ways and places to look that are just as effective. All right, so good job. So the goal of the meeting, really, it's to find out what's happening with the client. Get into their world, right? I had an old colleague of mine, marketing college, and he always said, fall in love with your customer, not your business, right? And that's the challenge that entrepreneurs have. We're so excited about our business. Look what I'm doing. I'm really excited. But you really have to fall in love with your customer and not what it is you're doing. What you're doing is just sort of a conduit for serving the customer and helping the customer get a result with respect to what you're doing. So again, the goal of the meeting is just to go in and find out more about the customer, probe for opportunities, see if they have a need, a challenge that you can solve, that they have the budget. And remember we were talking about the EQSP methodology as well over the past couple of weeks. Well, this is the Q in EQSP. This is where you sit down with the client and you ask questions. I'd go so far as to prepare questions ahead of time. Then, so when you have a client meeting, you can just print it out on your printer at home, and you take that with you and your notepad and pen and business cards, and you go and you just sit with a client and ask questions, right? You want to learn about their needs, their goals, their budgets, their challenges, timing, when do they need what it is that you're proposing, that kind of thing, right? So it's really important. So the next thing is, what would you ask when you're meeting that client for the very first time? What would you ask, right? You need to ask really good questions. Good questions are key in the 7-step sales process. The key is to make sure you seek to understand your clients. I've used that quote already by the late Dr. Stephen Covey, and in the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You need to really get to know the client before you put forth your ideas and your agenda, right? You've got to ask great questions. It's really probably one of the biggest skills, second to listening, that you can have in sales. And that in and of itself changes the whole paradigm of selling. It really does. Because it used to be we had to talk, we had to sweet talk people, we had to convince them, we had to ABC it, always be closing. It doesn't work that way anymore, right? So I want you to take a moment, maybe about a minute and a half, because we're pressed for time. What are 8 questions, or write down 3 questions you want to ask your prospect or customer when you meet with them. Take just about a minute or so and come up with 3 questions you wanted to ask your customer when you meet with them. And then what we'll do is we'll have a bunch of them after. So what are 3 questions you want to ask your prospect or customer when you meet with them for the first time? I had a great question a few years ago as a guest at a gym. I was working downtown, and I live in the north part of the city. And this was a private gym, and I'd go at lunchtime because I was working around the corner as a guest. And the owner of the gym came up to me as I'm on the treadmill, and he said, what do we have to do to get your business? And I looked at him and went, I love that question, because I teach sales, and I do. I love that question. What do we have to do to get your business? Right? Okay, so I'm not seeing much in the chat, so let's move forward. I'd really encourage you to come up with questions that you would ask your prospect or buyer when you meet them, right? So, what's going on? What's your challenge? What do you need? That's a great question. Just simply, what do you need? What would you like, right? What's stopping you? What's happening? Find out what's going on with their current reality. Don writes, so excellent, Don. The questions are for directors of retirement homes. What type of programs do your residents enjoy the most? Would you be interested in a program where staff time is minimal? What is the ideal time your residents prefer to do recreation activity? Todd writes, what do you want to do? Have you looked into this before? And if came out of it? If so, what came out of it? Also, what is your timeline in terms of starting and completing your project? So he's doing film work, Todd. So yeah, your time's critical in that business for sure. So in the sales process, there's 2 places where you have to ask questions. One is when you make a prospecting call, or you meet a new prospect at a networking event and you're talking about your business. And what you want to do is be ready for questions to ask then, because they might not be warm to your idea just yet, especially on a prospecting call. Chances are you will get a no. But you remember, you want to keep the relationship alive until such time that they're ready to buy. So when the customer says no, you want to probe the no. You want to say, hey, I get it's no. Let me ask you a few questions. Is it no right now? Is it no forever? Are you using somebody? Are you happy with them? Would you be open to switch? Right? Would you be open to a second provider? You know, that kind of thing. So you want to check for happiness, openness, future possibilities, and then also ask to stay in touch with that prospect in a way that doesn't overwhelm them. You know, you don't want to be sending emails every day of the week, right? There's some people like online that send you emails forever, right? Nicole writes in the chat, what does the future look like for you? Yeah, these are good questions. What are you doing to achieve those goals? What would you like to see have happen to achieve them? I love it. Good stuff, Nicole. The second place you ask questions is when you meet your client for the first time, right? You got to get a sense of your client's needs, their hopes, their goals, their budgets, their dreams, the timelines, as Todd alluded to. And also, what's the likelihood of making a buying decision? You need to know their pain. You need to know if you can solve their pain or the problems or challenges. And you need to really get clear on their goals, and you need to get clarity on pricing and budgets. That's super important, you know, because that can kind of hurt you if you're not aware, right? You also need to have the proper time to do the work. That's really important. You don't want to rush something that needs time to have happen. You need to find out if you're talking to the decision maker. You need to know, what's your buying criteria? What matters to you? What do you look for in a supplier? So you're polling for expectations. And is there anything preventing the client from acting, right? Maybe there's something in the way. Maybe there's a fear. Maybe there's an objection. And if it's no, ask to follow up and stay in touch in a way that doesn't turn the client off. That's when you're making your prospecting calls, or even in a meeting. They might decline you and use their current supplier. Just ask to stay in touch, because you know what? Maybe in a month, they're not happy with who they chose. And they'll, you know, now they'll be open to working with you, right? So always stay in touch. Even though it might be a no, stay in touch politely, right? You don't want to overdo it. Any questions? Everybody good? So what you want to do now is, after you've met the client and you know about them, you know what their needs are, you know that, hey, they're open to you giving them a proposal or doing a presentation. They're open to your ideas. You like them, they like you, you know, you're kind of happy. Now you want to go back in for step 5 in the 7-step sales process, and that's to present your ideas, right? And that's really super important. And in the EQSP methodology we've been talking about, the S is your presentation should provide ideas and solutions. That's the S. Solutions to your client that fits, right? It fits their needs. It fits the discussion you had in that opening meeting. And it fits their budgets, it fits their timelines, all of that, right? So the keys to good presentations is keep the audience or the client engaged. Be passionate. You know, have some energy and oomph. Be focused. You don't want to be all over the map. You want to just say, based on our meeting, here's what we heard. Here's what we said you needed, and here's what we're going to provide you, right? And then when you give them your idea or your solution or your action plan or your, plan for, doing activities at a seniors facility, make sure you reiterate the outcomes and the benefits, the positive aspects of your ideas and solutions, and make sure that they're tailored and tangible and impressive enough and that they speak to what the client said in your first meeting. The other really important thing is sometimes you can use a slide deck or PowerPoint presentation, not always, but if you can, keep it short, use less slides. You know, keeping it simple, keeping it focused, being coordinated, and providing new ideas and new perspectives can, you know, really help you get the sale and also get the person you're selling to be, you know, involved and engaged. You might even want to add a little bit of humor or controversy when you're doing your presentation. Controversy doesn't mean negativity. It could just be using statistics, for example, or case studies, right? We took this client, they were in a lot of, you know, trouble, whatever, and we helped them get these results. And this is how we did it, right? Or you can use a little bit of humor as well. I'm just going to go to the chat. Somebody made a comment. Yeah, Lesia wrote, what are your goals? Yeah, I want to ask that as well. How will you measure the success? Like, how will you know you're there? And are there any other challenges that you're facing? I love it. And Sabil, oh, welcome back, Sabil. This is all very good advice. Yeah, thanks. Good stuff. So in your presentation, it's super important. This is, as I said, this is the S in EQSP. You want to provide ideas and solutions to your prospect or customer, right? And so you want to articulate your value proposition. This is another place. That's why I want you to do that value proposition homework, because this is another place you can use the value proposition, or you could use it as part of your sales presentation. You want to leverage the urgency in terms of, you know, not taking action when you ask for the business could hurt you. Where would you be if you didn't take action versus where would you be if we got to work together, right? So you want to articulate your value, what you're bringing to the table, what the outcomes are, what the benefits are. It's really important to, you know, really share that when you're making your sales presentation. All right, and get that urgency, get that, you know, why are we waiting? You know, let's get moving on it now so we get some really good results happening, right? Because if they're putting it off, they're not committed. Your customer is not committed to change. Thanks, Michelle. I saw what you wrote in the chat. So leverage urgency and use your value proposition as a sort of a key to your overall presentation. There's a few steps when you present that you need to be aware of, and these are really critical. So once you've presented, you want to ask, do you have any questions? Are you on board? Do you like what we presented? You've got to ask for the sale. If you like what we presented, when would you like to start? Right? Be direct. Like, why waste time? You know, it's like that guy Jerry at the fitness club. You know, what do we have to do to get your business? I love it. Like, dude, let's not waste time. You want the business and you want a new customer, and I like coming into the gym. The answer I had was, I'm only here like really once every, maybe a couple times a month. You'd have to, you know, open up near where I live up in the north part of the city, right? So remember, in the presentation, once you've done, you want to make sure that all questions have been answered, that there's agreement, that they like what, do you like what we presented, right? Ask that. And then, you know, ask for the sale. That's a big part of your presentation. You might have to overcome objections, and you may need to negotiate too. So you need to be prepared for overcoming objections and negotiation. You have to have that in mind, that could be a possibility or an outcome after the presentation is made. Okay, really important. So asking for the sale is tough for some people. The reason it's tough is there's a lot of us who are afraid to ask for money, because it involves our own worth. And I say ask for money. Money is just energy. We rarely see it. We don't see it in our bank account. We see it maybe online, but what happens to the money you get paid today, and what happens next? Well, it goes to bills, it goes to rent or your mortgage or whatever else. You don't really see it. You're just transferring it. So money is just energy. It's somebody valuing what you do, and you're putting a price to the value that you're offering your customer, right? It's like they say beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It's the same with what you do. Some people might put a great value on what you do. Some people might not, right? It's like art, for example. I remember as a young teenager, in my Man in Society course, our teacher took us to Yorkville on a field trip, and we went on a tour of art galleries. And I remember seeing a beautiful painting by Jean-Claude Riopel, a French-Canadian gentleman. And I looked at the painting and I went, how much is this? Is this really $30,000? And it's like, I could paint that, you know? So for me, I'm not the market, right? I don't find the value or the beauty in it enough to fork over $30,000. Or somebody else is going, are you kidding? It's a Riopel. Do you know how much that's worth, right? And they'll pay that price. So that's all money is. It's just like energy. It's like, what do you feel your budget is? What can you afford? What are you willing to pay for what it is you do? So when you present, you're gonna check in, right? Are they on board? Do they have any questions? And then you're gonna, if they're agreeing with you, and they like what you presented, and they like your ideas, then you're gonna ask for the business. And there's a few methodologies that you can use when you're asking for the business. One is a trial close. So let's say they have another supplier. You'd want to say, hey, try us out. You know, give us a little bit of an order and see what we're like. And you'll see over time, you'll be really happy that you chose us, right? We might not be number one, but we could be number two, right? Avis, Rent-A-Car back in the day, they took pride in being number two. Their slogan used to be, at Avis, we try harder, right? Number one, I think at that time was budget. So they were like always competing. And at Avis, we try harder. And a lot of thought went into that slogan and ad campaign. So, you know, try harder. Try and, trial close. Another technique is a direct close. So if your customer, when you present, is in agreement with you, they like what you presented, they're happy, then you might say, so when would you like to start? Or how many cases would you like? So that's a direct close. Then there's a pressure close, and that's really about like, well, if you don't order by this Friday, our prices go up, right? So you're pressuring the client to take action because the deal they're getting today, they might not be able to get next week. Then there's the negotiated close, and this is where you negotiate. And so the client wants maybe something from you, and in exchange, what you might say, I could give that to you, but I'm going to need this. Are you okay with that? Right? So that's what's called a negotiated close. And then there's an alternative close, and that is where you present packages. So you've got package A, B, or C. So client, we have three alternatives for you. Which would you like, right? And then they can choose. And then finally, there's the assumptive close. So you're just making the assumption that they're happy, they liked it, and it's like, okay, so when should we ship? It's you're assuming that you got the business. And finally, there's a rebound close, and that's where you take an objection and turn it around into a closing question. So, if price wasn't an issue for you, what would stop you from buying? right? So you're answering the objection, or really you're addressing the objection, and then you're finding out what would stop them from buying, right? So that's called a rebound close. So based on that, what closing techniques do you like, and what would work best for your business and selling style? If you can, put it in the chat. I personally like the direct close. I find that really good. And I'm not big on pressure. I also like the alternative close. Like, okay, that I see that, we have three options for you to choose, and at least you're giving them choice, and choice at a different price point and budget. That might suit their needs a little bit better. So that's my preference. I want you to maybe put down what do you prefer out of these closing techniques. It's really important to ask for the business. You deserve it. Okay. Yay. Somebody's writing it. Oh, a few people are writing in the chat. Sabine says agree. Alternative close, give them options to pick. Yeah, I like that too, Sabine. It's nicer. Todd is the director negotiated. Yeah, for sure. And what you do, you might have to negotiate because there's so many parts to it. Michelle is direct and alternative. Yeah, good stuff. So just choose what's right for your personality. Some people don't mind the pressure close. I find it a little icky personally, but that's just me, right? Now, when you ask for the business, the next step or part in your presentation to be ready for, remember you said you got to be ready for asking for the business, and then objections, and then negotiating, right? So you might get some objections, you might get some pushback. Well, I'm not sure yet, right? So I'm not sure, yet whether or not we're ready. And so your client may object because they're not sure, right? Something doesn't feel right. So when you present, you've got to be ready to hear some objections. And my question to you is, are objections a good thing or a bad thing? Like if somebody objects to your offer or what you're, selling your product or service at, if they object to it, is that a good thing or a bad thing? As long as they're engaged back and forth, it's good, Sibyl says. Bang on. As long as they're there, they're still open, it's a good thing. So do you know what an objection is really about? It's about a need the client has that they didn't know they had. So how can you solve them? Well, I'm going to show you a way that's like super easy and memorable. And it's simply to put your hats on. That's the methodology. Put your hats on, right? And HAT stands for hear it out. Just hear it out. Let's say it's money. Well, okay, hear it. Accept it. Thank them. Hey, Joe, thanks for sharing that money is an issue for you. And then the S in HATS is you ask them to solve their problem. What would you need around money that will allow us to do business? And they'll say, oh, well, we need a discount of 10%, or we need credit terms, or, we need extra time to pay, right? Right there, those are some red flags, but you get the idea, right? So you want to hear it, accept, thank, and solve. And then once you know what they want, that's where you get into the negotiation. So you want to make sure when you ask to, when you hear it out, accept, thank, and ask them to solve the problem, then now you've got information. Okay, can we do this or not, right? If we solve that problem, is there anything else standing in the way of us working together? So you want to ask that. And by asking them to solve the issue, you can now negotiate better. So typical objections are definitely around price or money. Timing, sometimes we're not ready to buy yet. Also, we haven't heard from you about you, so maybe they're looking for referrals or references. You're too young, you're too new, right? Those are, so remember, it's a need. They're expressing a need they didn't know they had. And so when they share what the need is and what, then you can, start to go back and forth and negotiate an agreement, right? I had one client who was doing home staging. She was 20 years old, and she was took a entrepreneur training program that the province ran about, I guess it ended back in 2016. And she was in this entrepreneur program, starting her business, getting training and guidance and coaching and some income support. And she would approach, she was doing home staging, and she would approach real estate agents. And if you know, like most real estate agents were a little bit older, they looked down at her as, you're just 20 years old. What do you know about this, right? And she handled her objection a little differently, but kind of incorporated this HATS idea. So she listened to the problem and got clear as to what was stopping them, which was she was too young. And she said, you're right, I am young. But being young means I have energy, I'm passionate. I just finished an entrepreneur training program here in Whitby at the time. And I'm really committed to launching my business and being successful. I bring new ideas, creativity, and I love what I'm doing. I'm so excited about starting my business. And she asked, she said, you want to work with somebody like that? I'd love to work with you, right? And they changed their mind. They went, yeah, of course we want to work with somebody like that. And they started to give her maybe a client or two to work on. And she proved herself. They liked her. She was easy to work with, and she did great work. So that's another way to sort of overcome objections. All right. Any questions? So negotiations. Oh, there's one in the chat. Thanks, Sabine. Yeah. So from objections, you might have to negotiate, and you got to be ready to negotiate. So what you hear what your clients want, you may have to just talk about it and go a little bit back and forth. So just be mindful that you want to be ready to negotiate. You always want to achieve win-win. You don't want to lose, and you don't want your customer to lose, right? You want to sell your own position in the context of what drives your client. So remember that meeting, and they said that these were their problems, these were their issues. You want to remind them that you're going to help them through that and help them get a result that they want. And then you want to ask maybe, well, how important is that to you? What's it costing you by not taking action? What would the benefit be if you took action, right? So you want to remind the prospect or the client of the good that will follow once they make a buying decision, right? You want to also have clear goals for the negotiating process. You want to know what's your bottom line? When is it time to walk away, right? Know when to walk away. Sometimes it's like the best deal you get is the deal you say no to. And if you can, pick a safe environment to negotiate. You don't want to have like other people there or noisy surroundings. You want to have a safe environment where you can just be real with each other, because maybe part of it is fear for the client. Maybe they're fearful of using you, or they're fearful of making a decision, or if they make the wrong decision, if they're an employee in a company and they make the wrong decision, they could lose their job, right? These things are all possible. So you want to prepare like an opening speech or talk or opening to your negotiation like you would if you were a lawyer on Law and Order, right? And now we have Law and Order Toronto, so that's exciting. So you want to have an opening speech if you can, where again, you want to demonstrate that you really understand what the client wants and needs, but you want to remind them of what it is they're going to get. What are the outcomes? What's the change? What's that transformation they're going to get from working with you? And that, if there is any concern, be it you being too new or, the price being an issue, you're going to work it out together, and they're going to get more than what they had asked for, right? Because you can be value add as well. You can do little things to add value for the client and for the experience. That doesn't have to cost a lot of money, really. It doesn't have to, right? So remember to, sometimes you just got to be prepared to walk away. I remember a number of years ago when I was in a very different field, and I had a client, that took me a few years to get, and they wanted, I was selling promotional products, and they wanted t-shirts, 500, and they called me Monday, and they needed them on Wednesday, and I had to walk away. As much as I would have loved that deal, because it was in the middle of February, which was a slower month, I had to walk away because the risk of something going wrong was too great, right? If something, one mistake, we would have eaten the t-shirts, the customer would have been really angry, and we probably could have lost them. So I had to sort of politely decline and ask, look, I really appreciate you calling me. We'd love to do business with you, but we just can't. This is just too risky to take on right now. But we would love to work with you later. So remember your own integrity too. Don't compromise your company's integrity for taking an order. That's not good. And keep in mind your reputation and your bottom line. That's really important. Also, walking away from negotiations empty-handed, it's not a bad thing. Because as I said, you want to maybe stay in touch with that prospect or buyer until such time that they're ready to buy. Or maybe find out, hey, were you happy with who you chose? And they went, are you kidding? It's been a nightmare, right? So there you are, back in the door. So remember to meet your needs. Don't compromise your success, your professionalism, or your reputation, okay, when you're working with a customer. Comments, questions? Be prepared for these. And hats, you can try this out at home. The hats, overcoming objections. Let's say you have teenage kids and they complain about dinner. So you could say, hear it out, accept, thank them, and say, hey, Johnny, what would you like to, I get you didn't like dinner today. What would you like to see about it, right? Are you prepared to cook tomorrow? Maybe they will. Maybe your kids will help out that way. You never know. So you can try your HATS theory at home. Yeah. So, HATS, Sabille stands for hear it out, accept, thank, and ask them to solve the problem. So, hey, I get, you hear it out. They say, price is an issue. So you hear it out, you accept it, and then you say, thanks for saying that that's an issue. It is for a lot of us. What would you like to see around price that will enable us to do business? And you're asking them to solve the problem. Okay, and then that's where negotiation might have to happen. Because maybe what they want is a bit too much. So you want to see if I can do this, would you, then be ready to buy? Okay, so it's just a methodology to help overcome objections. So last part of today in the 3-part series, relationship is key. I don't know if you knew this, but it costs 5 times as much to get a new customer, not only money, but time, energy, effort, as it does to keep an existing one. So that should underline the value of really giving good customer service and staying in touch with your customer. Remember what I said, after they buy, it shouldn't be bye-bye, right? Because let's face it, your competition has a really bad habit of sneaking in and trying to steal that customer from you. Not that it happens all the time, but in some cases, right? So remember here again, the 7-step sales process. So the last part is, do the work and check in. That's another great way to keep the customer, is check and probe. Are you happy with our work? If not, what do we have to do to make you happy? And then once you finish the work, you want to be nurturing the relationships, right? And be creative about, staying in touch with the customer. It's really going to be so beneficial to you. So the consultative process is really about relationship being paramount, right? Building relationship, rapport, and trust are the keys to the consultative process that we've taught for the past 3 weeks. So you need to be in regular contact. If you neglect a client who they trust you and they like you and they're telling other people about you, they're going to feel let down, right? Have you ever given somebody a referral and then you don't get so much as a thank you card or a call after? Has that ever happened to anybody? It makes you feel kind of yucky. It's like, I don't know if I want to work with this person or, refer them again. So you really want to have this relationship building as part of your marketing and your sales strategy, and keep all channels of communication open. So based on that, what are 5 tactics or actions you can do every month to enhance the relationship you have with your clients, staff, or stakeholders? Take a couple minutes, we still have time. Take a couple minutes to think of 5 actions you can do to nurture the relationship with your prospect or client. So I'll give you a couple minutes here, and then we'll wrap up. And just, yeah, oh, good. Okay, Sabine, no worries. But if you had clients, Sabine, what would you do to stay in touch with them? Or to nurture the relationship? Okay, another 30 seconds on this. Oh, excellent. Okay, Melodina writes, quick check-in to see how things are going. Yeah, a little call here and there. Dawn says, once I deliver a service, I place my clients in an email nurture sequence. Excellent. Sabine says, schedule monthly phone calls, video calls, schedule in-person meetups every few months. Yeah, even just going for a coffee or a light bite of lunch. Keep that relationship alive, Sabine also adds. Todd says, stay in contact, ask if they have any new business needs, send them a thank you note. For sure, man. Thank you notes go a long way. Lesia says, send and promote what we're offering. Send out birthday cards. That's really nice. Cool. Dawn says, I asked them how they're doing. Also tell them of any new products or services we're offering. So you're educating them. Perfect. Also, Lesia says, a simple thank you card for being a client. Excellent. And Sabine adds, she likes Todd's idea of asking if they have new needs. Great idea. Yeah, what's changed? What's happening? How can we help you? You could even invite them to networking groups that you belong to. Maybe you belong, like I was just invited at the beginning of the month as a guest to a BNI networking event. And that was great. I made a couple of really nice contacts at that event. Or maybe you're hosting an event yourself, or maybe you're going to be at a craft show and you give them free passes to come to the craft show, right? Just depends what you're doing. But those are some other tactics that you can use. And I like, newsletters to a point, wishing them happy birthday on social media. I know my LinkedIn shows whose birthday it is, and so does my Facebook, and calling them too. Yeah, good job, everyone. Excellent. So here's the thing, you got to do the work, right? You've got to do your best at what you do. You need to ask your clients for feedback and always be open to criticism and be open to how you can improve. Don't take criticism as a bad thing. Take it as Oh, it's a learning opportunity, and how you handle criticism is going to really be key to keeping that relationship open with the client. So stay close to the client, and also so close that you're regularly asking for referrals, you're asking for more business, and you're asking your client to come back more often. Those three things will double your sales. Here's what I mean, and we're almost done. Let's say you have 10 customers and the average sale is $100 and they buy once a year. So your total sales is what? $1,000. But if you ask these three things, you're asking for referrals, you ask for more business, and you ask them to come in more often to buy from you. And let's say you just had a 10% response on every one of those. Now you have 11 customers and the average sale went up to $110, and now they come in 1.1 times more a year. When you multiply that out, the total is $1,331. You've just increased your sales by 30%. Imagine if you actually doubled each one, that you had every customer gave you a referral, so now you have 20 customers. The average sale went up to $200. Like you think of McDonald's, they doubled their sales by asking one question. Do you want fries with that? Right? Rogers, people, all of these companies, they're bundling their products and services because they've got something else they want you to buy. And let's say you went in, they got you got your customer to come in more often. If imagine doubling that. So, but even on a 10% level or increase on all three, you've increased your sales by 30%. So that's why it's really important to do the work and stay in touch and nurture the client, because your clients are your best source of more business and referrals, because you've already got them liking you and trusting you, and you're building the relationship, and you're being professional in your approach, and good things are going to happen. Any last questions? Any last questions at all as we wrap up today? Yeah, I'm going to go to the chat. Can I make a comment on growing slowly versus rushing in? That seems to be the number one advice from entrepreneurs, Sabille writes. I'm not 100% clear as to what that question means, but I believe a slow and steady approach with your customer or prospect is the best way to go. You've got to do these steps, like the 7-step sales process. Don't rush in, right? The sale's there for you. What you want to be building relationships, you want to be building trust, you want to be building and showcasing your talent and your skills and your credibility. And that takes time. That's not sort of a rush order. That's going to be over time, right? And you want to build that relationship where the customer, comes back to you. It's like having a friend. Like, you can't rush a friendship. You got to nurture that friendship and enjoy time together and enjoy maybe experiences together. Maybe they love baseball, so they're your baseball game buddy, that kind of thing. So don't rush. Slow and steady does really win the race, especially if you're positioning yourself like a trusted advisor or a consultant. Don, thank you so much. I'm glad you learned a lot. Any other questions? Are we good? So I'm going to just do this little, this is where you get a hold of me if you need me. And I'm also on LinkedIn. You can add me there. And there's a disclaimer from Alterna that's on the slide. So, just throw that up, and then I'll throw over to Susan, and you can read this at your leisure. And Susan, any last comments? Oh, thanks everybody for the nice comments. Susan, Sabille, I really appreciate that. Susan, I'll throw it to you to close.
What an amazing session. Thank you, David. I want to thank you from your big venture for providing such a comprehensive overview regarding boosting sales for your business. and how to approach clients, how to get that sale, the value added piece. I think there was a lot here that I myself can bring back into my daily work. So thank you. I want to thank the participants. You are such an engaging group. So thank you for participating. We hope that there's value for your business here. And as always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact our Alterna Community Microfinance team directly at microfinance@alterna.ca. Thanks, everyone.